You're now tuned into the Real Rap Radio Show. I'm your host, Walil Archer on Downtown Hot Radio. My special guest with me. I am Ron Weitzman. How are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
So let's talk about your book. I'm so excited to have you as the author for today.
Well, I wrote the book, uh, my goodness, in 2023, and already it's 2025. It was published in 2024. Um, I was concerned about the election, and I was concerned about the issues, dividing the two sides in the election. I had strong opinions about them. I had been a Democrat until 2016 when I voted for Trump instead of Clinton. And I the reason I did that is I could not vote for her. Uh, I did. I thought she was not suitable to be president. I didn't like what she said about a basket of deplorables. As soon as she talked about that, I immediately became a charter member, even though I wasn't a Tea Party person. I wasn't even Republican, but I became an independent at that point and voted for Trump. And my rationalization at the time was at least he had enough money not to be bought. And I thought that was important. And then when he did almost exactly what he promised he would do, I began to support him individually, not just as the second option. And so when the 2020 election came, I could not believe that if it were free and fair, the American public would be so dumb to vote not to vote for him after those 3 years of one of the best economies we've ever had. And it was only COVID. If it weren't for COVID, I believed he would have been a shoe-in. But the Democrats used COVID in the election campaign positively for their side, and they won the election. And so I write about that in the book too, how that happened. I disagree that it was fraud that won the election, but it was not a free and fair election, and I write about that in the book. If you want to talk about that, I'd be glad to. I write about abortion too. That was one of the issues. I think it should not be an issue. I think abortion is a matter of religion, not of government. And it's very simple that the First Amendment in the Constitution says that Congress shall make no laws interfering with the free exercise of religion. Well, regarding abortion, the three major religions in our country have very different views. For Catholics, life begins at conception. For Protestants, sometimes between conception and birth. And for Jews, at birth, life begins with the first breath for Jews. So it's definitely a matter of religion. And the First Amendment of the Constitution says that Congress shall not interfere with the free practice of religion. And the Supremacy Clause extends that prohibition to the states, just as it extends the right to free speech from the federal government to the states. The Supremacy Clause in Article 6, Clause 2, that's called the Supremacy Clause. And what Congress can't do, the states can't do. If Congress can't interfere with freedom of speech, neither can the states. If Congress can't interfere with religion, neither can the states. So my position is that the Supreme Court did not go far enough in applying the 10th Amendment in its decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. Not only is it prohibited to the government, it's prohibited to the states as well.
And what's the name of the book?
Name of the book is Chairman Biden and Dr. Fauci's Monster. And I called him Chairman Biden because, as a lot of people believe now, I believed from the day one that he really wasn't the president. He was running a committee that ran the government. I thought that he got elected. He got nominated in the first place because he made a deal with the very far left side of the party with who are really running the party, that have the active members and still are, uh, to adopt their agenda with respect to global warming and DEI. And in return for that, he'd be their president and carry out their agenda if they'd nominate him. And they did, and he did, and they won. Um, he did carry out their agenda. Um, I think to the detriment of our country with inflation and wars going on that even getting increasingly serious to this day. So I wrote the book to say why I voted the way I did in 2016 and 2020, what I hoped would happen in 2024. In fact, in an interview with Logan Crawford, I predicted that the Republicans would win in a landslide. I predicted that in October, and they did. When the polls were saying that the two sides were about equal, it didn't seem equal to me. But then people on the two sides tend to listen to different podcasts and different sources of news. So the worlds they perceive are different worlds. And the world I perceived that was the one that actually, what was the world we lived in, and that is that the Democrats were losing that election. They did horribly. They had a candidate who wasn't even chosen in the primaries, who really wasn't smart enough to be president. And most people thought that Joe Biden was too senile to be president. So the Democrats got in a very bad situation. I just hope they get out of it. I believe in the two-party system. I'm an independent. I want to see a second strong party. And the Democrats have to sort it out. And they're battling it out now. They're battling. They're mostly what they're doing is just saying everything possible they can against the current administration. But that's not enough. They have to have something positive. They have to have motivation for people to vote for them. They don't have that now. They have to do that. Abortion is an issue they could win votes on, but I think it should not be an issue, as I just pointed out. The Supreme Court has to reconsider that case. A Jewish woman who is pregnant in a state where abortion is prohibited has to take the case to the Supreme Court. And then she'll have standing because she's directly affected. And that has to happen rather soon. But that's not a political issue. It should not be a political issue. It's a matter of it's in our Constitution. Congress can't regulate abortion, and neither can the states because it's a religious issue. Religions differ on it.
Now, what was the inspiration behind writing this book?
The inspiration was that I just felt that that the position of the Democrats against Donald Trump was more involved more emotion than it did common sense. And common sense became the watchword for Trump in his current most recent election. But so I wanted to influence the public to vote for him and not to vote for Biden or Kamala Harris, because I thought that he was running the country in the right direction. And I don't believe he's a strong Republican. I think he's more like an independent, more like me. I'm not a full-fledged Republican. I believe in a lot of the things that they do with respect to the economy. When I was a Democrat, I was a conservative Democrat, called Blue Dog Woods, which don't exist anymore. We all changed, left the party, um, unfortunately. So and also, I think the Democrats have gone so far to the left that whereas they call the right side of the political spectrum fascists or tend to be on the fascist side, the contrary is true. It's true. All the fascism that's occurred recently has occurred on the left side of the political spectrum. Mao was a communist on the left side. Lenin was a communist on the left side. Stalin was a communist on the left side. Hitler was a communist, was a socialist on the left side. His party was the National Socialist Party. So dictatorship is on the left, not the right. And so I was afraid the Democratic Party is slipping to the left very, very quickly. And then when they were seeking a um, single party government by having two new states that were highly democratic, the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico, and tried to pack the Supreme Court so there'd be a single part, we'd have a single party system. Well, single party system is fascism. And they essentially got what they want, but they got the wrong party. Now the Republicans and the Republicans are rather solid until the Democrats find their way out of their current problem. So I wrote the book to deal with issues like that. It was trying to be helpful to the Democratic Party, but also mostly helpful to the United States. I think that we owe our allegiance primarily to our country rather than our political party. I point that out quite a bit in the book.
Did you face any challenges with writing this book?
I didn't face challenges writing the book. I faced challenges in getting it read because when the original version came out, people on the other side reviewed it, gave it terrible, marks. When you looked at Amazon, so I have a revised edition which has a lot better marks on it. They're all mostly now fives, but before they were all just ones, and I can imagine what happened that in the game of politics, which is a blood sport, people just decided that they didn't want other people to read that book. So that was the biggest thing I encountered. Also, when I was dealing with trying to get people to work with to promote the book, the original business I worked with turned out to be a fraud. I had to have an investigation of them, and I got all my money back that I'd spent. It was, quite a bit of money, tens of thousands of dollars. I got that all back. So I'm a little bit more careful now, but I lost months in dealing with that business, all during last year to almost the end.
When writing this book, did you experience writer's block?
Did I do what?
Experience any writer's block when you was writing this book?
Oh, I did. I wrote it in 7 weeks, and I gave myself a goal for each week, a chapter a week, and I did it. So I had no writing block. I just went right through the book with no problem.
Now, can you talk about your creative process when writing the book? Where did you, how did you get the content to write the book?
Well, I've always liked to write, all the way from high school. I knew I wanted to write. I just didn't know what to write about. And that's why I went to college. So I learned something that people might want to learn about, and that I could help develop. So I had never written a book before. I'd written, I was a professor and I wrote a lot of articles, but I never wrote a whole book or never published one. I think I've written drafts of books, but never actually took them to publication. And I'm doing that now. I'm working on two other books at 95 years old.
Congratulations.
When I was younger and I learned that Verdi wrote an opera in 80, I couldn't believe it. I thought you were dead then, not able to write operas, but he did. And, uh, one other reason I wrote the book, is that I did not like the criticism of Biden because he was old. I was much older than Biden, and I didn't feel that I was mentally retarded. I thought it was his special condition. Unfortunately, he had become senile. I don't believe that. I don't know what he may have done to have done it. I can't imagine what he could have done, but because we really don't know how much lifestyle and genes have to do with senility. Something we should know, but we don't. I mean, I'm doing fine with respect to uh, my mind. I could use a better sense of balance now. I've fallen down a few times, but that's the extent of my physical problems.
Understood. Now,
So
what do you want the readers to take away from reading this book?
I take away that it's more important to be affiliated with the United States than is with either party. That you always should have not the party's interest foremost in your mind, but the country's interest. That's number one. Number two, we need a two-party system, and it should not be either the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. That's the only party. Uh, I, I believe in competition, and that's why I tended to be on the right side of the Democratic Party, because the Democrats want assurance of outcome, and I don't believe outcomes are assured in the real world. I believe we compete, and competition improves our performance, and the best performance wins. But when you don't have competition, if you don't use motivation to get people to do things, then you're not going to have people compete with each other, and because there's no prize at the end, there's nothing to win, and you're not going to have improvement, and the species is just going to die out because the environment becomes more and more challenging, and we have to grow in our ability to deal with those challenges. So we need competition. I think that sports is a good metaphor for politics. It's that there are rules of the game that the two sides have to observe, and that the better side, the side that wins in a competition, is the side that wins. The side that plays the better is the side that wins. And that has to be true of politics. And it's not good to call each other names or use. I could say, for example, as a psychologist, that Joseph Biden has sociopathic tendencies. He lies directly, facing people, facing his audience, and that's sociopathic behavior. He doesn't seem to have any qualms about it. And Hillary Clinton was the same. That's why I couldn't vote for her. But it's not worthwhile just to call people names. You go with your best instincts, your best knowledge, and you respond accordingly. And don't try to limit yourself to support of one political party or another. This was the message generally.
And let everybody know, where can they purchase your book from?
Amazon is a good place. Also, Barnes and Noble, and I think it's also they get it through Facebook, or they get it through Instagram, or they get it through a number of ways. But Amazon's a good way to do it.
Okay. And as we close out, any final thoughts or closing remarks?
Okay, well, the book's available in four forms. There's an audible version, and there's a paperback, there's a hardback, and and that's about it. It's available in multiple forms.
Okay. Any final thoughts or closing remarks?
Well, I just hope people read the book, and I'd be happy to receive any kind of criticism in a written or oral form that any people might have, because I try to defend everything I said, and if I was wrong, I'd like to see that.
Understood. Well, I'd
Thank
like
you.
to thank you, Ron, for doing the interview today.
Thank you very much. I thought you did a great interview.
Thank you,
Thank
sir. So that's my time today on the Real Rap Radio Show. And I'll see you guys next time on the Real Rap Radio Show with Walil Archer on Downtown Hot Radio. Peace and blessings, everyone.
Okay, thank you very much.
My pleasure.